Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the Noon News from Montana's news leader.
Good afternoon, and thanks so much for joining us to close out your week. I'm Aja Goare. A deadly shooting is under investigation in East Helena, where a Lewis and Clark County Sheriff's deputy shot a man last night. MTN's Jonathan Mbarian has the latest details.
Lewis and Clark County Sheriff Leo Dutton says deputies were called to a home on Casper Drive around 10:30 Thursday night. A caller reported a man was cutting himself and threatening suicide. When deputies arrived, Dutton says they found the man had a pistol.
Deputies negotiated with him for probably 45 minutes to an hour to set down the gun. He wasn't under arrest. They wanted to help him. They pleaded with him to put down the gun. Unfortunately, he forced the hand of a deputy.
Just before midnight, Dutton says the deputy had to fire on the man in order to protect himself and others. The man died at the scene.
You know, it's terrible that the deputies have to go through that. Our condolences to the family of the young man as well.
Dutton says the deputy has been placed on administrative leave, as is standard policy. Sheriff Dutton says this case will now be taken over by the Montana Division of Criminal Investigation. Investigators are expected to be on scene here into the early afternoon. Jonathan Mbarian, MTN News, East Helena.
Thank you, Jonathan. And a coroner's inquest has yet to be set. Bighorn County schools are closed today as authorities search for a student who allegedly brought a gun to school last week. The sheriff's office, along with federal authorities, are searching for 17-year-old Hardin High School student Utakot Burdenground. According to charging documents, Burdenground flashed a gun at another student while demanding lunch money. Burdenground was then escorted off the property and suspended Friday. Officers searched the school at that time but did not find the weapon. Prosecutors say that's because teacher Nora Block hid the gun, then placed it under a desk Saturday and alerted the principal. Block and Burdenground both face multiple felony charges. Block is in custody. Just into the newsroom, a Great Falls man who bear-hugged his wife to death in 2017 will spend 5 years in prison. Roy Edward Scott was sentenced this morning to 15 years in prison with 10 suspended for the death of his wife, Stephanie Wells. Scott told investigators he squeezed his wife to death when she began hitting him after a night out drinking together. Scott was convicted of negligent homicide in November. Police are currently investigating a shooting in Great Falls. Police were called to the 900 block of 2nd Avenue South for a disturbance before 10 this morning. Police tell us a male victim was transported to the hospital after being shot. A suspect is in custody and authorities believe the community is safe. The circumstances of the shooting and the victim's condition are unknown. Check back on air and online for updates. A man who allegedly carried out a stabbing attack in Bozeman last month, now charged with attempted murder. Jonathan Meyer was arrested in Helena this week and made his initial court appearance Thursday in Lewis and Clark County Justice Court. In mid-January, Bozeman police were called to a report of a stabbing at an apartment on the 3300 block of Warbler Way. The victim had multiple stab wounds near his heart. The victim later told investigators he was walking up to his apartment when he was attacked by a man with his face covered. The victim's ex-girlfriend told officers that Meyer, her other ex-boyfriend, admitted to the stabbing attack. Meyer is being held on a $500,000 bond. The former Florence doctor found guilty at trial for overprescribing pain pills, sentenced today to 10 years in prison. Chris Christensen was sentenced in Ravalli County District Court to 20 years at the Montana State Prison with 10 suspended. Christensen was convicted of 20 felonies, including negligent homicide for the deaths of 2 patients. At sentencing, the judge said Christensen has not expressed remorse or taken responsibility for his actions. Christensen said if he had it to do again, he would not change his actions. Today's sentencing was the culmination of a raid and investigation into the Florence clinic that dates nearly 4 years. A controversial classified memo is now public despite objections to its release from the FBI and Justice Department. CBS's Mo Lange has the story.
President Trump has agreed to declassify a controversial memo over the objections of his top law enforcement officials.
The memo was sent to Congress. It was declassified. Congress will do whatever they're going to do. But I think it's a disgrace what's happening in our country.
The president tweeted this morning, the top leadership and investigators of the FBI and the Justice Department have politicized the sacred investigative process in favor of Democrats and against Republicans. The memo, written by Republican Congressman Devin Nunes, reportedly claims the FBI and Department of Justice abused surveillance of Trump campaign officials as part of its Russia probe. The FBI has pushed back, saying it has grave concerns about the memo's accuracy.
White House officials say the president made the decision to release the memo in full without any changes.
I sent it over to Congress. They will do what they're going to do. Whatever they do is fine. It was declassified. And let's see what happens.
Democrats say Nunes cherry-picked different classified elements to put a partisan slant on the investigation.
This is designed to impugn the credibility of the FBI, to undermine the investigation, to give the president additional fodder to attack the investigation.
FBI Director Christopher Wray has objected to the release and could issue a rebuttal soon. Mo Lulengi, CBS News, the White House.
Democrats are concerned President Trump will use the memo to justify firing Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, the man in charge of Special Counsel Robert Mueller. The president then could appoint someone more open to the idea of firing Mueller. Switching gears on this Groundhog's Day, Pennsylvania's own world-famous groundhog Punxsutawney Phil predicts 6 more weeks of winter. This tradition started back in 1886. As many as 30,000 people gathered today outside Pittsburgh to hear the news. The groundhog did see his shadow today, meaning an extended winter. Out of 121 years, Phil has only forecasted an early spring 18 times. Turning now to the weather scene with Ed McIntosh. Just how bad is that weather going to be?
Bad.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I think if its prediction is going to come right, it's going to start this weekend. Let's go ahead and take a look across the region because everybody's got a chance of rain and snow showers through the day today. But watch as we start getting into the weekend, particularly in the band right between the two lines. We're going to start to see some higher accumulations in that region, and not just one round Saturday into Sunday, but another round that'll start to move in Sunday into Monday. We're going to take a closer look at that and the rest of the forecast coming up in just a few minutes.
Thanks, Ed. We'll check back in. Healthcare providers and foster parents voiced their concerns at a Thursday hearing, speaking out against proposed reductions to Medicaid rates and services. The Montana State Health Department is proposing wide-ranging rule changes for the state Medicaid program. Leaders say they must make the changes because lawmakers cut DPHHS funding by $49 million to address a budget shortfall. The proposed rules include reducing the number of children eligible for case management and lowering the rate the state pays for supporting foster families. Organizations impacted say these changes will make it impossible for them to keep meeting current service levels. Teachers in Clinton got a bit of good news with the announcement of a $250,000 grant to help with student literacy. The goal of the Montana Comprehensive Literacy Project is to provide schools with more resources to help children improve their literacy skills. Clinton school officials learned this week they're one of the beneficiaries, and the school will receive $250,000 over the next 4 years. Money that will be greatly appreciated by the school and used to buy new books for the library, new software, and technology to improve digital literacy. Still ahead on the noon news, chaos breaks out at a sentencing hearing for the former U.S. gymnastics doctor convicted of sexual abuse. We'll show you what happened. But first, Ed has our chilly weather forecast. Stay with us.
You're watching MTN News with Aja Goare, Storm Tracker weather with Ed McIntosh, and farm and ranch news from the Northern Egg Network. This is the new